Hello everyone, a big warm welcome to all our listeners tuning in today's expert series on the Special Needs Children podcast. I'm really thrilled that I have the special guest for this episode, someone who has dedicated her life to empowering families of children with special needs. I'm delighted to introduce Ms. Gulshan Kavarna, a remarkable change maker whose journey has touched countless lives. Gulshan is the founding member of SFS, Special Family Support Group, a support group that began in 1999 with just a dozen families gathered in a living room. Since then, SFS has grown into a powerful community providing invaluable support to families of children with special needs. Congratulating all of you all on the 15th anniversary of SFS. She is also the founder of Ahura Support and Residential Home in Mumbai, a safe space that offers care and guidance to individuals with special needs. Beyond this, Gulshan was the art mentor at Mawahib in Dubai, an inspiring art studio that nurtures creativity among adults with special needs. Adding yet another dimension to her incredible work, she now serves as a creative coach to one adult on the autism spectrum. Her dedication has earned her well-deserved recognition, including the Most Inspiring Woman Award from Arabian Business and a place amongst the top 100 most powerful Indians in the GCC. In addition to her hands-on work, Gulshan also hosts a podcast featuring inspiring stories of PODS, People of Determination. And now, her incredible journey has been beautifully captured in a powerful book titled Why Me? Why Not Me? Thank God Me by Kurush Khodaji. This book shares her story from her early struggles raising a child with special needs, Zara, to her emergence as a true champion for people of determination. Through a remarkable journey filled with resilience, gratitude and transformation, Gulshan shows us how the power of perspective, gratitude and community can help us overcome challenges and unlock our full potential. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really happy to have you here, Gulshan.
Okay, let me just say the honor is mine. Chitra, I've been following you. And when you called, I said, yes, of course, I'll do it. So, seriously, the honor is mine.
Seriously, I'm diving straight to the first one where, you started SFS in your living room. That is something I guess most parents only can think of doing and starting from scratch. And you started with a handful of families. So, how has your journey evolved since then? And most importantly, what inspired you for this?
So, I had this thing with God, give me a normal child and I'll work with people with disabilities for the rest of my life. I didn't know a soul in Dubai. I had no friends, no relatives, nothing. I was 7 months pregnant when I went. And the gynae, I don't know what she was thinking. She said, oh, you're 33 years old and you've not done your amnio test. Maybe you'll have a child with Down syndrome. Now, it didn't come as a surprise to me because my whole life I've been involved with people with disabilities. So, I had a school I went to in Clare Road Convent. So, we had a special needs section there. When I went to Sophia Polytechnic to study art, there was Om Creations and, just in the same building. So, the same people who were there with me in school came and I used to hang out with them in my canteen, say, come, let's have lunch together. And everyone would look at me like, you're so weird, who are you hanging out with? And I couldn't understand, like, they're my friends. They've been with me throughout school. So, why would I not hang out with them? I don't know if you knew this guy, Pradeep. He was my first interaction with autism. And I said, how does he remember everything? Yeah. Gulshan, in 1979, you wore this. I said, how? How do you remember that? We didn't understand the word autism or Down syndrome. We were still using words like Mongol. Yeah, I'm old. So, that is what we were using. And, it was, we just couldn't come to terms with, and I loved being with them. So, when I was told Down syndrome, I said, I'm a big hypocrite. I said, God, give me a normal child. I'll work with people with disabilities. So, when Zara was born, absolutely fine, normal, healthy. You know, I took, at the age of 4 months, it was the day Princess Diana died. I took her, you know, to get her routine vaccine. I remember, you know, pointing to the doctor and saying, I've come for the shot. And she said, yeah, let the nurse handle it. So the doctor didn't examine her, nothing. No one asked me any questions. You know, we trusted the system so much. Gave her the vaccine, took her home, put her in her cot. She was fine. And then 16 hours after the vaccine, she had her first seizure. And I, you know, gave her to my husband. I woke him up and I said, she's getting a seizure. And he said, what does that mean? I said, a convulsion. He said, I don't know what that is. I said, she's getting a fit. So, you know, and I was going more hyper as the night was progressing. And then he said, oh, I think she's just dead. She died because she stopped breathing. She turned blue. And so we just sat there not knowing what to do. You know, I'd called, we were staying in a hotel apartment in those days. So I called the reception. I said, is there any doctor? So I spoke to the doctor. It was by then 1:30 in the morning. And the doctor said, how old is your daughter? I said, she's 4 months. He said, you know what, I can't, you have to take her to the hospital. I am not allowed to see someone under 6 months. So he didn't come. Then we rushed her to the hospital. They said, oh, it's a convulsion. It happens after a vaccine. Don't bother about it. And I still believed in them. I gave her the more and more vaccine, more and more damage to her little body. And yeah, today Zara is on a diaper. She's going to be 28. She has not said a single word since the age of 3. Before that, she had said 6 words, which I didn't record because I was recording her seizures, you know. So my thing is to all the new parents, enjoy your children. You know, don't wait that I will only do it when they start talking or when they start doing this or when they start doing. Enjoy them where they are and love them unconditionally for where they are. You know, we as parents, I used to borrow a camera, video camera in those days, and then record only her seizures and then send those to Dr. Udani. You know, he still uses her seizures and all the writing that I've done. Today she did this, she ate this, did this trigger a seizure, I don't know. So I was recording everything and he uses it. And that is what, you know, how it all started. Yeah, it's not been an easy journey. Whoever says, oh, you are doing so many things, but it was hard, you know. So I went to a school to volunteer, and the teacher there, she said, you know, you're getting very low. You need to be a part of a support group. So I said, okay. In those days, we didn't have computers or anything. We had this big, huge yellow pages book. So I flipped support group, nothing. So I went back to her, I said, I can't find. She said, if you can't find one, start one. So I said, okay, how do we start a support group? Nobody had any clue. And I said, okay, I'm going to just ask families to come. Everyone just sat in my living room. And we all spoke about, you know, the difficulties that we face and what can we do as parents. And everyone was so tired of listening to professionals. They said, can we just party? So for the last 25 years, we've been partying. We just have fun. You know, nobody wants to hear a lecture from a... We do that now
for
online.
Learning.
Yeah. I mean, but... So I don't want to know so much about autism or, you know, with Down syndrome. I need to understand more about epilepsy. So yeah, if there is a talk on epilepsy, then it's good for me. So I realize that parents are not interested. They just want to have fun. So that's what we do. For the last 25 years, we just have fun. You know, everyone who comes, we're just dancing, or and nobody is looking at your child. They're having a meltdown. It's fine. Let him have a meltdown. After the meltdown, he'll be fine. And that's what they love, and that's what we do.
So you set up the support group, and I know that you're running multiple support groups now. One in Dubai, and
I'm not running it.
Okay.
The people in Bahrain found out about SFS.
Okay.
And then they said, in those days it was Skype.
Ah.
So I said, come on Skype. I'm not flying down to Bahrain for this. I will tell you all how to do it.
Nice.
And so got all the families. I said, I'll come on your 5th anniversary.
So sweet.
And I went.
Lovely.
And then I went again last year, and I surprised them all. And I was saying, hi, I'm Gulshan. And they said, yeah, we know you. Everybody seemed to know me. So, but it was nice because they are doing the same thing that we are doing, and it's happening in Bahrain.
Lovely.
So it's really nice. And without money. No money is being exchanged.
Brilliant. That's the best thing, right? When as a parent you're doing something to help each other.
We just rely on the community. I call them and I say, you want to do something this year with us? And they say, yeah, of course. Oh, thank you for reminding us. So I said, again, we are about 150, 200 people. So do you want to do snacks or do you want to do biryani, lunch, whatever? And it depends what they want to spend. And we just show up with 150, 200 people.
So you turned a coach, and I'd like to hear more about what you're doing there, and specifically with neurodivergent individuals now. What all are you doing?
So I've always been, as a volunteer in Dubai Center for Special Needs, I used to work in the art department. And I used to see that there was so much talent, amongst the adults, especially autistic. There is something about them and doing art. And there's no fear. If you give them a canvas, they'll just create. And they do it with so much in depth that they're thinking about, And all this time we were giving small papers, and coloring with crayons to adults. And I said, let's just stop. Let's just give them proper materials. Let them paint on canvas. So we started giving them that. And, we had one exhibition after another. I would learn because I did my commercial art course here. No artist name was ever taught to us. I had no idea about any artist, So I had to learn while I was teaching my students. And, I would tell them that these are the artists. Would you like to, study them? And they say, yeah, because they also don't have an art background. Like Frida Kahlo, Basquiat, Modigliani, Giacometti, they were all people with mental illnesses. And they were Yayoi Kusama. I had to learn all these names first, learn about them, and then I could teach. And we came up with the most beautiful artworks in the style of these artists, And now whenever my students go anywhere in the world, they say, oh, this is this, this is this, this is this. It's truly an honor that, that they've learned it. And I used to treat them like an adult. So I said, if you are having whatever you're having, I don't care. Go out. We had an open door policy. We never closed doors. So I would just tell them, go out. I taught them that you're having a meltdown. You need to, self-regulate. And you can do it while having a coffee alone, by breathing, by taking a walk. So go out, do these things. When you're better, come back. So there were days when Zara had seizures in the night. I was also not in the best frame of mind. I've not slept. I've been irritable. So they would say, go out, take a break. And we know you don't drink coffee, but go out, take a break, come back.
It was completely.
But it's perfect. But this is how We were treating each other. Yeah, and that's how we treat adults. I would tell them, if you're behaving like a child, there's no place for you in the studio. Out. Go out. If you are an adult, come back. So, that's how I was training them. And I think it was very successful. Not babysitting them. And there was this one guy who now I work with, Abdullah Lutfi. And he said, put your Bollywood music off. I said, but you'll go to a mall and they'll be playing Bollywood music. So you will go and scream and yell and say, put it off? No. Figure out a way to. So he said, okay, then I'll put my own headphone. Simple. But I'm not going to do things for you. Like if you don't like the color yellow, so we're not going to, nobody's going to use yellow. No, it's not, it doesn't work like that. That person is loving yellow, so they'll use yellow. You don't like it, you look away or do something. So it was just giving them tips on how to manage life, Not giving them one sensory room and say, okay, you sit in this peaceful room. No.
So when you're coaching the individuals in the space of art, what exactly are they doing? They come to you and then your first...
So it's like life. Yeah, blank canvas is like life. So what am I going to do with this life that I've been given? I'm going to make a plan. So how do you make a plan? How do you go about it? What are the strokes I'm going to use? What are the colors? So you make a plan about life and about, so just teaching them these steps. It was never about making them into artists. But when you start believing in them, they start believing in themselves. All of them were using the metro by themselves. Yeah, they were all getting lost. We would go in panic and find them. Everything was... But they were learning. We took them on a cruise. We were just 3 staff members and about 14 of them. And when we arrived, we said, oh my God, so one cabin is somewhere else. The other one's there. And we said, we are not coming looking for you. This is where we will be sitting. It's a cruise. It's huge.
Yeah.
But we said, we are not coming. So the first day, these 2 girls, they didn't come for breakfast. They didn't come for lunch. Then they came at 4:30. And they said, we are very hungry. Now it's a cruise, right? They can eat at any time. But we said, no, now you'll eat only at 7. So they had their dinner at 7. They were starving. Next morning, they were there for breakfast, lunch and dinner. So that is how we used to handle them. We offered them all. I said, listen, all of you are adults. I choose not to drink because I don't feel the need to drink alcohol. If you feel that you need to drink, you all are adults. No, what will my mother say? I said, mother, father are not there. If you want to drink, you drink. So the first day, and I said, the Muslims, because of Islam, nobody's forcing you, but alcohol is there. So if you don't want to drink, you don't have to drink. So the first day, they all poured big glasses. And we only offered wine, but it was like a lot. And they were drinking it like this. So all their heads were, one after another, were going down. So the next day we offered again. And he said, there's alcohol if you all want. And they said, no, no, we don't want it. So that's how we were teaching them. We can say, no, don't drink, but then they'll be curious and they'll go and do it. Do it in front of us. And like I said, I choose. I'm a vegetarian by choice. You don't have to follow me. You do what you think is right. And, that's how we were just training them all the time. And it was just wonderful to see them come out.
Right.
I would love to start a studio like this.
Yeah, so key challenges, what were the challenges that kept coming up and what motivated you to go ahead?
So the challenges at the studio, the biggest challenge was the parents, So we would have these parent-teacher meetings. Obviously, nothing about art is being discussed. Just please let them become independent. Because what's going to happen? These are adults now. What's going to happen after you? No, my other children will take care. Is it their responsibility? No. Have you asked them? No. You know, the only thing from your side you can do is, keep them financially, which you help with, and make them as independent as possible. So they're not a burden on the sibling, you know. So the parents were the hardest. I would just say they're old enough, they can make their own breakfast and lunch. You know, everyone had to tell me before they opened their lunch box what they had got for lunch. And if the nanny or someone had made it, obviously you don't know. So I would say, open your box. What is in it? And if they didn't know, I would again, call the parents and say, let them do it because they are capable, you know. And then my students started asking me, so what have you got? And
You didn't know.
I said, I had a bad night. I've not cooked anything. So they said, but you're not doing what you're telling us to do. I said, it's not like I can't cook. I can. But I don't. But y'all can't. So y'all have to learn.
So, given this experience, Gulshan, it's been wonderful what you've been doing both in India as well as in Dubai. What would you tell another parent, another family, or any of these organizations who are trying to start, themselves as parent support groups or people who are providing a service to our adults? What would be your advice?
First, stop being like this, holding your back like this. Straighten up. Okay, we have a child with a disability, it's fine. And now we have older adults. We have to respect them. So the people who have older children, they always say, but they are a child to me. Okay, so respect them as adults. I learned this from my friend's daughter who said, Gulshan aunty, are you buying these clothes for Zara? I said, yeah. So she said, but I would never wear these. This is ugly. I said, but Zara looks so sweet with bows and all. She said, no. That time she was 12, 13 years old. And she said, no, stop. Please dress appropriately. And even movies, even everything. The way we speak to, please respect them as adults. And if someone says, hey, how is your child? Say, not a child. He is an adult. So please respect them as adults, first thing. Second is enjoy as much as you can. Travel. There's so much happening now all over the world, where you can travel with your neurodivergent as a family. Do it. Travel Emirates, because Emirates is the first autistic friendly airline. They do make an effort. There's so many privileges. Make sure that we get it for our children. Why are we holding back and not speaking about it? I didn't have a toilet where my husband could take my daughter. I created havoc at the airport. They heard me and they built separate toilet. Here, we have to start first by building toilets. But hopefully we'll get there.
Extension to this, you already touched on it. So POD, people of determination, is such a huge concept in Dubai. How did it happen? And there's so much to learn. Can you please share more for our?
So our ruler, there are two Sheikh Mohammeds. The president is also Sheikh Mohammed in Abu Dhabi. He's from the Nahyan family, and Sheikh Mohammed from the Maktoum family is the ruler of Dubai. And I don't know which Sheikh Mohammed has come up with this, but it's amazing. People of determination. So when I ask them, people of determination, how do you like this name? And they say, we love it. This is who we are. We are determined to make a difference in the world. And they are. Why can't we just be like them? instead of getting them into our world, you know. Their world is so beautiful. I love being with them because you learn so much about just letting go, not caring about, you know, what people think or say, just living your own life. So why are we trying to bring them into this horrible world of ours where people don't accept? There's so much bullying still happening. You know, all uh, neurotypical schools have to admit anyone who comes. That's the rule. KHDA, I mean, the ones with more severe, they need LSA, yeah. So then they have to provide, the parents have to provide. But everybody goes to a mainstream school. Again, I am fighting for it. I keep telling them, but not everyone belongs to a mainstream school. You know, just for your satisfaction, you're saying that my child is going to a mainstream. But is that really required? Like if I had put Zara in a mainstream school, what would she have done there? She needs therapy, you know. And we have a common friend, therapist. I don't know, he's like a guiding light for us. You know, Saif Bijliwala, I would really recommend everyone to go visit him. Whether it's autism, Down syndrome, CP, whatever it is, meet him, you know, and he can change your life.
Yeah. So, under POD, what all has happened? What all services are available? What all facilities are available?
So earlier for parking, for disabled parking, there was just like a file that was this thick. And it was mainly for Emiratis, you know, the people of the land. But they've now opened it up. They've even given it to children and adults on the autism spectrum because they know that when there's a meltdown, you need to rush out, or even after the meltdown, you know, yeah. So they are giving parking.
Priority.
So parking is free for us. And then we have these toll bridges which are called Salik, which is expensive. So I was in the Gulf News on the first page. We are not paying. When Salik came out. So we don't pay. And they give us all these preferences. You know, there's so many restaurants now which are catering, making this, the airport is disabled friendly, you know, where there are soundproof rooms where if a child needs to go in, there's just so much happening. Even when I went on, I just flew in from Dubai and I requested for my daughter's tray to come first. I said, she's not a child, so don't give me the child meal, but give me the proper meal. But can you give it first? Because I need to feed her and she doesn't allow so many trays to be, you know, in front of her. She wants to. Immediately, it was done. I didn't have to even repeat it twice. So they are making these changes. There's so much happening, you know. And they keep constantly asking us and the PODs themselves, what do you want? How can we make it better? Even hotels, if I tell them I'm coming with my daughter who's a wheelchair user, it's all the bathrooms are wider. It's all there for her.
So they're basically listening big
To
time.
the parents, to the PODs
I
themselves.
wish all the governments in the world would be like this, especially ours. Big thing coming up. I mean, what you've already been doing is your podcast. Can you please share about it? What do you do, and what have you called it, and how did it come about?
So the podcast, I have been a fan of Oprah Winfrey since I started watching. Then I started watching you. And I loved it, what you were doing. And I said, I should do it myself. I swear. No, I swear. I used to watch your podcast. And, you know, and then I said, I'm going to interview all these adults and talk to them and ask them, like, what do you want? What is your future goal? You know? and let's have a heart conversation with you. And it was the first one was a student of mine who I knew who had not spoken for 6 years. She had slipped into a depression. And then, I don't know, it's called flooding in psychology. I found out later. I just pushed her into it. I said, listen, I'm giving you 2 seconds to talk. If you don't say your name, I won't admit you. And she said, my name is Asma. I said, okay, then you're in. So she was my first speaker. And then, I knew all of them. They've literally grown up in front of me. Right. So I knew their stories, but then I started interviewing other people, and it was really interesting.
So to all our listeners, you have to listen to Gulshan's podcast.
It's called POD, Pod, People of Determination Cast by Gulshan. It's on YouTube. Like and subscribe.
Yes. Now coming to what's happening. My God, the book. Please tell us what's in it, what all is there.
It was always my dream to write my book. Yeah. I wanted to do it, but I'm a procrastinator. So I would write bits and pieces, and I would say, no, I'll start a new book. So many of these new books I started. And then we went to Kashmir on a family reunion, and my cousin, we were stuck in that curfew at that time, So he said, guys, you all want me to read my poems? I said, so you write poems? Since when? My cousin's son. And he read us these beautiful poems. And I said, Kurush, will you write my book? And he said, I've never written a book. I don't. And, I did discuss, but nobody really wants to sit and hear about my life being difficult, and, so I choose an audience, and if they're not interested, I don't. So he said, yeah, I'll do it. And then he started, now he's sitting in front of me on on Zoom. I said, Kurush, I think you should record what I'm saying, right? He said, don't worry, I'm writing it down. I said, okay. Then he would call me, you're going back and forth. When did this happen? When did this happen? So, I was giving him a hard time. No, not intentionally. It was just whatever would come to my mind, I would tell him. And then, the book just happened. And now I'm here in Bombay to do all these book readings.
Share the name of the book and how people can
buy it. I actually written a poem about it myself called Why Me? Because as a parent, we've all asked this question, why me, why me, why me? And I used to put a cushion on my face in the night and cry. And one voice came and said, and why not you? I said, let me see. Amongst everyone that I know, who would be a better mother to Zara than I? I'm not showing off that I'm the best, but I can detach also little when I need to. I can just be there when I need to. And I said, my sister would know. She would just drown. She won't be able. This one, that. I said, no, nobody. That's why it's me. So, and then, when so many things were happening around me, and it's only because of Zara, who doesn't demand too much of my time, who gives me this freedom to just go and do it. And I say, thank God me, and thank God Zara came into our lives. I don't feel like this every day, but we learn to accept and just move on.
It's such a huge life-changing thing for us, and as you rightly said, it takes time for it to dawn on us also. We learn so much. I think I learned to be patient just because of my son, and to everything in life. And like you rightly said, all the privileges that we have. People keep saying that, oh my God, the self-pitying can be there, or pitying from others. But if you look at it as, we are so blessed and so lucky that we have them in our lives, and that's why, things are working. Yeah, for you, Gulshan, what's happening? What's coming up next? What all are you going to work on?
So the next is, my husband is retiring and he wants to move back. to Bombay. We have 2 adorable grandsons, and he wants to be close to them. And so do I, of course.
It's more like
But
Dubai's loss and India's gain.
But it's
Mumbai's gain.
It's really going to be hard to leave Dubai and to leave the whole community. And it will be hard. And Abdullah, you know. So, but Abdullah, I'll work remotely.
Right.
And let's see where the future takes us. I like this.
And what is Zara saying?
So Zara again has no choice. We took her to we took her there and gave birth in a foreign country, and now we'll bring her back, suppose, to her home country. But I don't know if she feels this is home, because she's born and brought up there. Yeah. But let's see what the future holds for us.
Thanks so much for sharing about what you've done till now, and also your straight talk to other parents, what you shared in terms of individuals as well as families, how to just let go and be and have fun. That was very, very important.
And hold your back straight.
Hold your back straight.
When they say, "Arey, ye tera bacha aisa," yes, I have a disability. I mean, my child has a disability. So,
Yeah. In terms of, one last thing that I'd like to say, you have always been an advocate. You've opened your mouth and therefore you've been on the front page, right? What goes into doing that, and how can you please encourage, motivate, inspire all of our listeners who are a lot of parents out there as well as professionals who genuinely care for our children and our adults, that what do they need to do and how do they need to ask for things, up front? Can you please share that, straightening your spine bit? What's the process happening in your head?
So when we go to a restaurant with Zara, she's sitting in a wheelchair. Now, especially in the Indian, where you get the best food. So we go there, invariably, the waiter will not give her a menu card. Now, how does he know whether she can read or not? Right? He doesn't know that. So I said, क्या आपको दिख नहीं रहा है? Transparent है? अरे invisible हो गई, क्या हुआ? So they don't understand what I'm saying. And I said, give her the menu card, please. I'm not asking for Zara. I'm not. It doesn't matter to her whether you put the menu card or not. I'm asking for the other parent who will come to the restaurant, whose son or daughter can read and is not given, Then while they're eating, all staring at Zara because I'm feeding her. And she's enjoying her food so much. She loves South Indian food. So I'm giving it to her. And then, I can't take it anymore because all the table, everybody is just staring at us. So then I stand up and I say, okay guys, I'm a woman, a mother, feeding her child because the child can't feed herself. So after you're finished staring and, keeping your mouths open, just enjoy your own meal with your own family and let us also enjoy. And my husband is like, he wants to go underground. But again, it's not for...
Yeah, it's basic rights, and you can just...
and then, the people will not hold the door. They're seeing that I'm coming at the back. So I leave Zara, I go touching them and I say, excuse me, since your mother didn't teach you, come back, hold the door. They say, huh? What? We don't understand. I said, hold the door so I can go past and then you come. So I'm constantly doing that. And I know in India it's a lost cause. But here, what I've seen is, if I'm struggling to put Zara onto the footpath, like 5 people will come and they will come and help. Everyone in other countries, they're scared. We took her to New York. No one wanted to even touch her. And they keep saying America disabled friendly. Not. I traveled with 2 of my artists to LA. We had a 4.5 hour wait in immigration. 4.5 hours. We flew 16 hours and we flew business class and they still made us wait for 4.5 hours. And I said, guys, I'm traveling with 2 people on the spectrum. And, and she was like rude out of, like, get back into line or I'll put you back for another 4.5 hours. So we keep talking about America being so disabled friendly. This is all my first-hand experience. It's not. So, I mean, other people might have. A lot of Americans gave me flack on my podcast when I said that. But this is my opinion. I have witnessed it firsthand. In India, they'll come up 5 floors also. They'll carry the wheelchair. But why should we be doing that? Why can't we just have ramps? Why can't we insist? Here, we can do it. It's not even expensive, But we all have to make the changes.
Right. So, really looking forward to have you back. I think a lot of people who are listening to this are going to be eagerly waiting to see that, okay, what is Gulshan going to do when she's back?
First, I think unite everybody.
Unite everyone.
What is this NGO and that and this one and that one family? I'm parent. Get them together. There's so many NGOs,
Yeah.
Why can't we just all be one? Okay, if you want your autism, but have one like a POD and then have
merge
autism,
everyone together,
Down syndrome,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Right. Lovely to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And look forward to doing one more with you very soon once you're here. And wishing you all the best to your entire family and to all of those who you have touched, whose lives you've touched.
And who've touched mine.
Who've touched your lives, yeah. I mean, thank you. Thanks, Gulshan. Thanks for this wonderful journey of life and look forward to catching up and being with you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, everyone.